Yes, former Senator Bob Klitzkie. Let's go to the phone lines, Bob. Let's go to Lisa from Jigo. Lisa, good evening. Good evening, Lisa.
Yes, first of all, I would like to say kudos to Mr. Klitzkie that he did volunteer before he ran for senator, and he did sub for a whole week at GW High School, and kudos to him for that. Secondly, I would like to point out that school board meetings are currently being held at 8:30 in the morning, and I know that the superintendent of education and other people on the island, stakeholders that be, would like to show up to that. What's his take on that? How can people go when they're supposed to be at work and they can't get off work? Students as well. And third, what do you think is the most important thing that the new superintendent should focus on?
Okay, thank you, Lisa. By design.
I'm going to work from the back towards the front, right? I think that the new superintendent ought to start out with the Every Child Act, which, as you know, lists 14 points that constitute an adequate education. I'm not saying an excellent education. I'm not saying that there are things beyond the 14 points that don't constitute an adequate education, but the 14 points are tangible things that you can count, you can get your hands on. When not long after the act became law, the budget process had 14 line categories. It showed exactly how much was needed, how much we had, how much it would cost, etc. That was a great program, and that somehow fell by the wayside. But you could have teachers who want to work hard and do a good job, are capable of doing a good job, but if the temperature in the classroom is 95 degrees, the kids don't have books, the toilets are running over, on and on, it's going to be very difficult.
Or we could knock down walls if the air conditioner is about 3 classes down, knock down walls and have air conditioning.
That might work.
Well, that has been talked about before.
Yeah. So I think that's the first thing that the new superintendent should do. He's got to get a handle on the money. He's got to get a handle on the whole facilities maintenance thing. We mentioned the ARA funds before the break. The superintendent, I think, ought to do whatever he can to facilitate the instructional process. That doesn't mean that he goes out and teaches or that he gets involved with what teachers do in the classroom, except in the most indirect way. Because if you have good teachers that are motivated and a good solid educational plan, you're probably going to have a good education. If not, there isn't much you can do from the front office to change it.
How about the board meeting schedules? 8:30 in the morning. She said people want to attend, but
well, if it were me, I'd probably have them at 7. But I'm an early riser.
Early riser. There you go. Bob thinks everybody rises at 7. But again, I think that's
fine. When I'm sleeping in.
When you're sleeping in, that's right. But anyway, yeah, definitely. I mean, more people want, most especially now. I mean, you have definitely issues in regards to, again, 2 added classes that are going to be implemented, and teachers, stakeholders don't know where the give is going to be.
I haven't been to a meeting for quite some time. When I was a director, we used to alternate. Always had them at schools, different school every time, and they were always like 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night. When I was a teacher, I used to go to a lot of, in fact, when I was a teacher and one of the chief rabble-rousers for the Guam Federation of Teachers, I used to go to the meetings all the time because at that time they had an open discussion portion of the meeting where people could stand up and express their opinions to the Board of Education. I don't think anybody ever really much paid any attention to those expressions of opinion. So I can understand why teachers would want to attend those meetings, especially if they have that open discussion period now. The board, of course, has the ability to call those meetings whenever it wants to, so long as it meets the requirements of the open government law.
Bob, let's talk about, again, part-time legislature. You've been an advocate ever since for part-time legislature.
Ever since we went from a part-time to a full-time legislature, which was way back, I think that, one, there would be a much greater willingness of people to serve in the legislature. A person could be a senator and not have to give up his whole life and start over all over again. You know, like,
Sure,
you know,
sure.
Wind up with a radio program.
Yeah,
and a
there we go.
TV
That's right.
show
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And that sort of thing. It would save a tremendous amount of money. I would say right off the bat, it would save $4 million. Mm-hmm. It's certainly apparent right now that we could use $4 million that we don't have.
Sure.
If the legislature would reform itself and go to a part-time legislature and not concentrate so much on the personal aggrandizement of the members of the legislature, it would set a good example for the rest of the government. The legislature talks about reform and straightening things out, but how can you do that when you have no credibility when you don't do it yourself?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's, I think, probably 4 of the 271 reasons I think we should have a part-time legislature.
Well, the pay raise.
Yeah, the legislature found a pay raise for itself at the end of the...
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Pay adjustment. Pay adjustment.
They found that at the end of the last legislature. I don't think it was appropriate. I brought my legal analysis to the fore, to those who had the ability to change it, and or to not, excuse me, not to change it, but to not implement it. Didn't go anywhere. I didn't see any action from the newcomers who weren't tainted by the previous legislature to do anything about it. And best of all, if the analysis that the majority used, the Rules Committee Chairman Rory used, was appropriate, then that means that senators were overpaid from sometime in 2003.
That's right. Yeah.
Up until 2007. And I haven't seen any efforts to go back and collect the overpayment.
No, can't do that.
So there's a little bit of an inconsistency there.
We're going to take a break, come back. Let's talk about this this election bill that's looking to get a override.
You mean the recall?
Recall. We'll be right back.